begin to, put our football team in the best position that we can be to start winning football games. So we had meetings yesterday. We got a chance to get in the weight room, get a chance to talk as a football team as to what we need to do to get back to winning. And this team clearly understands the direction that we need to go. We've made the changes that I felt were appropriate to start to move us in that direction. We'll continue to make the appropriate changes necessary to get this football team to the point where it needs to be relative to success on the field. So, we look to do that in very short order. I don't believe that that's going to take much time at all. I expect it to happen this Saturday against Syracuse, and I'm excited about getting back on the field and practice and, getting this football team to the position where they can win on Saturdays. So we got a very good opponent in Syracuse. Coach Babers runs an extremely fast offense. They throw the ball very well. Obviously, Adetawa is a receiver that we have to be aware of, but was that pretty good? Not too bad. Yeah, I could have said number 7. I took a shot at it. But very talented receiver. They've got a number of talented receivers. All of them are very good players. The quarterback is one that throws out a lot of different arm slots, can get the ball down the field. They like to push it vertically. They've got a nice quick game, good screen game, will run the ball effectively if you're too soft in the run game. Just a really good scheme. He's done a nice job. Coach Baber's done a really nice job of putting their offense in a position where they can put points on the board. What we have to do is obviously, it's pretty clear. We got to keep the points down. And that will be our objective on Saturday, and to be more efficient on the offensive side of the ball. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Brian, Deshaun is ranked 23rd in the country in passing. He's 14th in pass efficiency. I think he's on pace to set the school record for pass efficiency. Is his job really in jeopardy?
The standard of play is not where we want it to be for him. So, and I think I made that pretty clear at the press conference after the game. There's a standard of play that's been set for every player, and that standard is based upon what we believe and what he believes should be acceptable for him. And turnovers and his ability to continue to grow as a quarterback sets that standard. If he was his first-time starter, or if, he didn't set the pace that he had set last year, maybe the standard would be a little bit lower. But he has set a standard of play that we believe that he needs to meet and exceed every time he goes out there.
But does that mean he might not be the starter against Syracuse?
No, he will be the starter against Syracuse. Yeah.
You talked about making changes defensively, that you'd be more involved. Can you talk about how involved you'll be and what that'll mean as far as what you'll be doing with the offense also?
I'll be very involved in the defense, but I always, obviously, I've got clearly a great staff, especially when I look at it in totality, bringing Greg on, an experienced defensive coordinator. Certainly I've got the people in place, but I'm going to obviously be much more involved in the defensive side of the ball, and have been this week. But I will still see the implementation of our offense and make sure it's what I want. And Mike will continue to do the things that they've done. I'm very confident in their ability, but I won't all of a sudden disappear. At the end of the day, I'm 1-3 as a head coach, so I'm not going to all of a sudden abdicate my duties of overseeing offense, defense, and special teams.
What changes do you expect to see on the defense? Any changes personnel-wise?
We're going to play with enthusiasm. We're going to play with the passion that I said that was missing. We made the changes accordingly to bring that back, and so that will begin to show itself. You're going to see a lot more players playing. There's going to be some depth, some camaraderie, we need to get that morale up on defense, and we'll do that with a lot more players involved in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
It seems you're walking a bit of a fine line when you tell a player that, or anybody, that their job is in jeopardy if they don't do better, but to go and play looser and freer. It seems like that's a bit of a challenge to do both at the same time.
No, everybody's, when you're 1-3 at Notre Dame, everybody's job's in jeopardy. So it doesn't mean that you can't be who you are. It just means that there needs to be a sense of urgency, and that you need to be focused, you need to be on top of it, and you need to go play the game the way it's meant to be played. So it's not meant to be in any way, and we've talked about this, a threatening form to our coaches. It's meant to be, the reality of it is that we all have to look at ourselves closely, and myself included, at how we're doing things on a day-to-day basis. Are we doing everything in our power to be the best we can be? And so that's the intent. That's how it's been articulated to our team. Each of our players understand that. Each of our coaches know it. It's not a threat. It is a reality of the sense of urgency that everybody has to embrace on a day-to-day basis.
Just last one for me, the challenge of trying to stop at a Tua.
Well, there's a couple things, right? So first of all, he's targeted with the football. So the ball's coming his way vertically, and they do a great job with their read routes. So if you try to play 10 yards over the top of him, he'll pull it up and he'll catch it. And he's a big physical kid. He'll have a run after the catch. If you try to play, press and man-to-man, he's got great length and catching radius that he can take the ball right off the top of your helmet. So you got to know where he is at all times, and you have to factor into your game plan a very gifted and talented player. So he's a challenge. There's no question about it, and we know about him. Yes.
Brian, to be more involved in the defense, what does that mean exactly for you? You're not calling plays, so what does being involved more mean?
It means that it's going to take a style of defense that I'm much more accustomed to, the way I want to play defensively. And we'll pull from the library, which we've already have. We've already put our defense together for Saturday, the way I want to look defensively. And then our defensive staff will call the game, and it certainly will be something that I'll have some say in as well.
With Kaiser, how many hits are too many hits for him? In terms, you use him in the run game a lot. Does that wear him down over the course of a game? No, we look at the numbers across the board relative to carries. The things that we've got to do a better job, and he's got to understand is, he needs to slide a little bit more. Trying to spin in the open field are not really smart moves on his part. He needs to get down. But I don't want, and I told this to Mike the other day, I don't want our whole offensive running game to evolve around the quarterback either. It shouldn't eat up 65% of our run game. So that has to change a little bit. The identity of our offense still should be focused on the running back in the running game, not the quarterback. So that's one piece that needs to be tweaked and will be. And the other piece is that he's got to be a little bit smarter in the open field. What do you think sort of got you to that point with the run game that was too quarterback driven? It's just the way teams were defending you? It's pretty easy to get the quarterback involved in the running game because the hats, kind of match up pretty good. It's easy kind of to default to that. Because you're picking up the running back, as a blocker. And so it makes it sometimes easier to go in that regard. You were fairly tough on your roster after the game on Saturday. How often can you go to that whip before they sort of tune it out and it's not effective anymore? I don't know
that I was that tough on the roster as much as I was as tough on my coaches. I think when you tell your coaches that they're on a job interview for the rest of the season, that seems to be pretty tough, more so than saying that there's a standard of play at a particular position. But you guys can interpret it any way you want. It's my team, and I don't think that I'm too tough on them. I think that there's an expectation that you have at Notre Dame and that you need to play that way. Now, having said that, it still falls on me. This team's not playing well. It's my fault. It's my fault that they're not playing well. And so I have to find the solutions to it. And so after a game, when you're frustrated with the play, everybody is on notice. I'm on notice, and I made that pretty clear, that I'm responsible. I said our coaches were on notice, and I said our players were on notice, because we're all in this together. We all spend the same amount of time. So if I didn't make that clear, I'll make it clear one last time, and then we're going to move on. Everybody's on notice, and it starts with the head coach.
I guess that in the sense of if you say someone doesn't play with passion, is that the best way to get someone to suddenly play with passion?
No. I have to be able to find out what are the reasons that we're not playing with passion. I've made some changes, obviously, some significant changes within my staff that go to maybe some of the reasons why we weren't. And there are other things that have to continue to evolve for us to continue to move in the direction that I want. Passion is only one element. Attitude, passion, accountability, responsibility. All of those things are within this team that I have to help grow, quite frankly. And that falls on my shoulders.
Thanks.
Brian, the Michael Birch version of your depth chart was the same this week. And I'm just curious, you haven't had a chance to practice yet, but you said you wanted to look at some people.
I do.
Can you share with us some of the people that you're kind of interested in getting a longer look at?
I think, so we have to be careful, right? So you can't just take somebody that's had no reps and give them 70 on Saturday. That's impossible. But what we can start to do is put a depth chart together that gives a young man a look at saying, I got a shot here. I'm part of the solution. And I want guys to feel like they're part of the solution here. And there's going to be a lot of those guys that are going to feel like that they now can be part of the solution, both in a defensive standpoint and in some instances on the offensive side of the ball. The cliff for me in terms of the number of reps that we're getting is too stark. For example, Josh Adams had 54 reps and Dexter Williams had 10. That's too stark of a cliff right there. That's too stark. Josh Adams is one heck of a good player, if you all believe that, and I do too. But we've got to do a better job there. And that's just one example. Jay Hayes had 0 reps. That can't happen. Asmar Bilal had 0. Grant had 10. Martini. Greer had 10. So you can see the disparity right there. It then becomes a one-dimensional football team. The haves and have-nots. And that does not do well with morale. That does not do well with ownership for everybody and attitude. So we've got to build a better base there. And that starts with me making sure that happens.
Brian, there's been...
And I'm not saying that everybody's got to play and we all got to go have a big group hug at the end of practice. I mean, it's merit-based too, but there's just too many good football players that haven't been playing, in my estimation, and I'm making the calls on both sides here, and they got to get in the game. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that.
Al was campaigning for the group hug.
Okay. Campfire, the whole thing.
But, there have been people that have asked me about the talent level. Is this talent good enough to be a better than average defense?
Yes, it's inexperienced and it's overused. It's overused. We got some guys out there that are dog tired trying to do things, and they got too many reps, and we got too many good players sitting behind them watching. And we got to get them in the game, and we got to trust them. We got to coach them, and we got to get them in the game. We got to play them, and that's on me.
I know that you don't want to give away what your defensive scheme is, but I'm trying to get a sense of who's affecting it. Coach Hudson, I mean, do you want his stamp on this defense, or is this your defense and that he's operating it more or less?
It'll be the system that's in place, and it'll have more of my stamp on it.
Okay.
And Greg has been empowered to bring the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion, the morale, the camaraderie. I need those things from Greg. That's what I need. I want our kids to be excited when they step on that field against Syracuse. I'll worry about the implementation, the scheme. I'll take care of that for him right now. And as he gets more comfortable with what we have and what our system's about, then he'll be much more involved in what we do. But right now, you know, we'll write the music and he'll be the lead singer. If that's I don't know if that's a great analogy, but if that makes any sense, he's going to be out front, but he just got here, and he's just, in terms of being, you know, assuming this role, so he's learning everything as well.
I know on Sunday you mentioned that you didn't really delve into player reaction at that point. When there's kind of a shock to the system, players sometimes galvanize, sometimes they scatter. I'm curious your early returns on what you're seeing from your players.
I don't know. We'll see today. I mean, you know, the players are pretty resilient. You know, they're going to play at the end of the day. You know, I'm sure that there are personal feelings one way or the other. But in my experience, they're pretty resilient. They'll be ready to practice today, and then it'll be up to me and the defensive staff to create the kind of environment that gets the things that I'm looking for out of them, and that'll be probably the bigger story than what their reaction to the change was.
In 2010, you got off to 1-3 start. You had some hiccups on the defense. Then you got a buy-in from Brian Smith late in the year that seemed to kind of help pull your defense in November to new heights. I mean, you had really four good games to end the season. Mm-hmm. What can you maybe draw from that experience? I mean, was it as simple as Brian Smith buying in? Were there other changes made that helped coax that? You know,
talent only gets you so far. Talent only gets you so far. So, you know, it's attitude, and, you know, creating the environment for those guys to, you know, play through whatever the scheme is. It doesn't matter what the scheme is. I'm here because I want to be here. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I love my teammates. I love being here every day. It's attitude, and it's my job to create that.
Brian, right up the middle. When you say you want your guys playing more loose and having fun out there, do you have to change maybe your sideline demeanor to try to get that out of them? Obviously, you know, we all see, and it's understandable why you're upset sometimes on the sideline, but do you have to be more loose on the sideline to try to get them to be more loose?
You know, I actually think I should probably, I think I've been a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe not as demonstrative. I think I've got to be a little bit more fiery on the sidelines, quite frankly. So I'm going to try to turn it up a little bit on the sidelines, because that's who I am, you know? And I've been kind of, you know, hands off a little bit. And so, you know, I just need to be who I am, and not be, you know, as hands off. And I've got to be more involved. And so, if I was too fiery, you guys will have even better stories over the next couple of weeks.
Brian, down the middle here. You talk about standards for Deshaun and setting a high standard for him. For the defense, what sort of is your standard for them going forward?
Keep the points down. Play with great energy. I want to see guys celebrate together. I want to see guys having fun and enjoying playing the game. And if we get to that end, good things are going to happen defensively.
I think the fun aspect of it, you mentioned last week that some players were maybe playing a little too anxious, and that was leading to some poor tackling form. Is that, I don't want to say that's the only fix, but is that part of the fix to some of the tackling issues?
Some of it. I mean, I have a philosophy that is going to start today about how that's going to go, and you know, I'll get to work on some of the things that I think are more important, and I think they're going to be effective. So we'll get to work on those. But a lot of this has to do, as I said, creating competition, creating an opportunity where you can see light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to be part of the solution, and that you care that what happens out there is affecting your teammates. It's not just about you, and you don't want to let your teammates down. And that's going to create a lot of, I'm going to make sure I make that tackle.
You've had back-to-back weeks with receivers losing a fumble. I guess, how do you coach that with young guys who are trying to make a play, you know, and then like Aquamenius losing it, CJ losing it?
Yeah. You know, in that instance, you know, we're EQ's just got to use better judgment. He's got two guys. One's there to rip. He's got to get down. You know, he's trying to make a play, but I think in those instances, he's just got to be smart. I think we see that each and every week, whether it's on college or the NFL. Once the second guy comes in to rip, you got to get down. CJ's was a little sloppier. You know, he's got to have 3 points of pressure on the football. We've addressed that one last week. But, you know, EQ's was a learning moment.
Is that just something that comes when you have so many sophomores or first-time players in a receiving corps?
There's a lot of young guys out there.
Thanks.
A lot of young guys. It's unacceptable, but there's a lot of young guys up there.
Brian, up the middle here.
Yeah.
You mentioned on Sunday that obviously the players don't know Greg Hudson very well. Do you go into this game, is there a, quote, co-coordinator with him?
Well, Mike Elston will be up in the box.
Okay.
Mike has a great understanding of the defense, certainly, and so he'll be working closely with Mike Elston.
You know, and I'm sure you have a plan this week defensively and how that's all going to unfold, but it's kind of uncharted territory, I would imagine. What's on the top of the checklist this week? I know you talked about being emotional and having fun and going for, but physically, what's at the top of the checklist?
Well, first of all, Tim, you got to understand who we're playing. A team that goes extremely fast, extremely fast. So there can't be any confusion. A defense that is comfortable in knowing what they're doing and how they're doing it. So, you know, we're going into a situation here where we have to get lined up. We have to know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. So first and foremost, they have to feel so confident in what they're doing and how they're doing it in this kind of speed that we're going to see with this kind of offense. So that's really, if you want to check the first box, that's box number one. And we're going to play a lot of players. So how do you get those players in the game when they're playing so fast? Number two is keeping the points down. And that means doing things that we haven't done before. Quite frankly. So there's some things that we have to practice this week that are a little bit different for the guys. And those all have to come together on Saturday.
When you say that, it sounds to me like you're describing a little bit of Bob Diaco's defense, your first coordinator here. Are you saying that? Are you talking along those lines?
No, but, you know, obviously, you know, what we have to do more than anything else is allow our guys to get lined up. And you can't do that with what we saw this offense do. I mean, this offense is so fast. And we don't want to do what we did against Texas, where we were physically in a nickel situation most of the game. We want to get our bigger guys on the field as well. So, you know, we learned from maybe some of the Texas things, but we also learned that we've got to get the right personnel on the field. So, you know, just understanding that our defensive structure has to be such that, you know, there's some, we can't defend everything. We can't defend everything, but we have to be sound. I'll leave it at that.
You mentioned some of the guys that you'd like to see, you know, get more reps, Jay Hayes, Bilal, et cetera. Do you not, as the head coach, already control that, or did you left that in Coach Van Gorder's hands?
Well, you know, I think some of it is at times, they're not prepared, they're not ready for this kind of scheme, and now that I have put in what I believe to be something that they can handle, it changes the view from this perspective. Now there isn't that insulation of the answer. Now there's no excuse why they can't be on the field.
Not necessarily asking for specifics here, but can you just give a general characterization of the decision that was made over the weekend? I'm sure you and Mr. Swarbrick met over that. Can you characterize the direction of that conversation?
My ultimate job is to lead this program and evaluate where our team is. And as I said, I felt like the change was necessary for us to move in a positive direction. I didn't think that we were going to move in the right direction unless a change was made. And that meant relative to my personnel, staff, and players. And that was the decision that I made. I called Jack and asked him for his approval. He gave it to me, and the rest is where we are today.
So you initiated that conversation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Brian, what does Dexter Williams do to really jump out as much as you singled him out after the game Saturday? Behind the scene, we saw a touchdown.
Special teams, the way he played, his commitment to special teams, the way he practices during the week, his energy, his enthusiasm, his attitude, all the things that I'm looking for in this football team, he embodies that right now. And then the way he played. We missed 2 blocks, and he ran through 2 unblocked players. That's what you do on defense. That's how you tackle. You run through a would-be ball carrier. You defeat a blocker and you make that tackle. You don't get reached in a 3 technique. That's how you play this game, with that kind of heart and that kind of energy. And he embodied that. And that's going to spread throughout our team. And that's why I singled him out.
Was that a game day thing for him, or has he been like that the whole 2 years behind the scenes? You've seen him, and that was kind of the culmination of it?
He's evolved to that. He's evolved to that.
On game days, I know it's in the notes, Greg Hudson will be on the sideline. Just
That's
curious,
correct.
Defensive operational-wise, how's every assistant's job more or less affected by the change at the top of the defensive coach position? And what's a guy like Bob Elliott do differently or day-to-day
Bob's a
behind the
senior
scenes?
advisor to me that's focused primarily on oversight, and his focus is on oversight, defensive oversight and quality control. He's a very experienced coach who spent a lot of time on defense, and I've got him focused on quality control and oversight on defense.
So nothing really changes, I guess, just with the new coordinator in place now for Bob in that sense?
Well, no, I think his attention is much more focused on, defensive implementation, fundamentals, obviously cross-checking, just a much more detailed approach to, what's going on. As I want to, do some things and want to put some things in, he's making sure that they fit relative to scheme terminology that's already existing, and just again, his experience can help in many ways relative to where we are right now.
Switching gears a bit, what makes Eric Dungy difficult to defend? He's obviously a bit of a risk taker and he's capable with his arms and his legs, but how do you try to defend a guy
He's
like
not
that?
He's not afraid to throw it in any arm angle. Sidearm, underhand, behind his head. He's going to get the ball out to his playmakers. He'll stand in there. He'll take a hit. He's fearless. He's got a strong arm. And he's really athletic. They've asked him not to run as much, obviously. He certainly could run every down, but they need him in there. They need him in there because he's their best quarterback. But I just think it's his fearlessness. He's fearless, and he can get the ball down the field to the guys he needs to.
Thanks.
Coach, up top to your left. You talked Sunday about possibly making some personnel changes from a moving guys around. Have you had those conversations yet with your staff?
Yes.
And have you kind of come to some conclusions yet as far as, maybe some guys that might shift around from a positional standpoint?
Yes.
And do you care to share some of those things
Can't
with
right
us?
now because they would give away some of the things that we're doing.
Now, that's kind of the next question. Are some of those changes more long-term, or are they kind of more for Syracuse? Because they run a bit of a unique offense than
They
what you're going
do.
to face the rest of the
They
year.
do. They make it difficult for you to get some of your personnel on the field. So some of it is, in fact, for Syracuse, but some of it will be for some long-term effectiveness for our defense as well.
Now, when a team runs tempo like this, obviously it can be difficult to get guys in and out during a series. You've
Yes.
talked about playing multiple players. Does that kind of force you as a defense to kind of make series by series rotations so that guys kind of take off so you're not running guys in and out each series?
Yeah, it's you have to think of it in terms of, anytime the ball is on their sideline, you cannot make a situational substitution. If the ball is on your sideline, you can get a guy in. There's a chance. Now, they do scan, so there is the chance. But anytime it's on their sideline, we can't get a guy in the game. It's virtually impossible. Certainly, if the clock stops, we can get guys in. But void of that, you have to be very tactical in how you get your guys in and out of the game.
Does that also include kind of, your different personnel packages? Do
Yeah,
you go-
so there again, got to eliminate all that. I mean, I can't have 15 different personnel packages, right? We got a couple of personnel packages, is that it? And there can't be cross-training into 3 different, personnel packages. We've streamlined that to the point where the guys are going to know by hopefully Thursday exactly where they fit in each group.
Then when I think a lot of weeks you go into games, just generally a lot of defenses against most offenses, you kind of play inside out. Got to stop the run between the tackles and then play to the sidelines. Does Syracuse, the way they play, kind of force you to maybe play a little bit more outside in with their perimeter pass game, and then they want to try to kind of gash up the middle, but they're going to attack the perimeter so quickly and so often?
Yeah, I'd say the best way to characterize them is they're going to push the ball vertically first, and then as you back off, they're going to just dink it and dunk it to death. So they just got a good versatility to what they want to do. They got a great quick game. They can run the ball if you want to be in a soft box. To me, it's what I know offensively. They just do it really, really fast, really, really fast. But its premise is they want to go vertical. I mean, it's a vertical read team to start.
Coach Kelly, I'm curious, what is it about Coach Hudson that gives you the confidence that he can bring that immediate attitude adjustment that you're looking for?
He's got passion for Notre Dame. He loves Notre Dame. I've been able to observe him in an analyst role, and his demeanor, just all of the things that I'm looking for in our guys. We mentioned one guy that brought that attitude and demeanor was Dexter. He brings that as a person, as a staff member, and he's going to be able to continue that fire that we need with all of our coaches as well.
You've talked so much about urgency and passion and those types of things, and you put a lot of it on the coaching staff. But I'm curious, a lot of this I would think also has to come from the players. What is your level of satisfaction that you're getting from your senior leaderships, and in particular your team captains at this point?
Well, I think the mix here is morale and attitude that comes from me, and I have to create that. They were part of a junior class where we lost 5 juniors in that class, So, and those 5 were alpha dogs that were in that class with them, So they were part of that class too, and they lost a significant group of leaders in that class as well. So it's my job to create that attitude within the ranks, and I have obviously not done a good enough job, and that's why we are 1-3. Now, they've got to play better. They got to execute better. There's no question about it. But look, the pieces that we're missing, Yeah, we're inexperienced in a number of areas, and primarily in some key areas. But what we're missing are ingredients that we can fix quickly, and that's why we made the change that we did.
And finally, shortly before you named Kaiser the full-time starter, you talked about whomever ends up the number 2 guy, he better be all in or he better get out of the way. How is Malik Zaire holding up to that challenge?
You know, it's a tough role. It's a tough role. He is understanding what he needs to do in that role. Let's put it that way. It's evolving. It's evolving. Are you going to be here Thursday? You will be? Ask me Thursday.
Justin Brent, where is he health-wise at this point?
Still hobbled.
Okay.
Still hobbled. I mean, to the point where I don't think he is a guy that can go at 100% right now. He's probably going to end up on demo squad for us at this point.
Okay. At this stage of the season, would it be too much to ask a guy to move to another side of the ball? When you talk about personnel changes, is it too?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
So you can tweak some things.
Unless it was Quentin Nelson, maybe. He could probably play nose guard. He could probably do that, but we're not doing that.
All right.
We're not.
I had a story there.
We're not doing that.
All right.
But he's the only guy. It's not happening.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, over here, you mentioned that if anything, you've been maybe less demonstrative than you need to be, and you haven't had the fire. Obviously, you had some incidents earlier in your career where NBC cameras caught you in maybe less than flattering situations where you've probably felt that you needed to tone it down or all. Has that been part of it? And do you feel you need to be yourself a little bit more?
Well, I mean, I could still be demonstrative, but I just feel like they still have to see that passion for me as well, and that's all I'm saying. I don't have to be a lunatic on the sideline and throw chairs and do that kind of stuff. But they have to feel that from me as well. I think that's very important in this game of football.
I guess Lou Holtz was on this week on a radio show where he said in his own times he had to look and probe very closely to see if there was player dissension within the ranks, whether it can be taking sides on the quarterback deal or anything like that. Have you been able to really gauge anything on that front?
We're 1-3. We're 1-3, and our players aren't that bad. Our coaches are pretty good coaches. I've been doing it for 27 years. So obviously we're working through some things. We're working through some things, and our guys are working through them. We're working through them, and we think we're going back in the right direction. So I think I've answered that question.
Okay. You mentioned the mental part of having more passion and emotion and just a fun aspect out there. The physical part, I guess one of the main issues still is the tackling part of it. Is that something that is also become more emphasized, or? So
I'll say it one more time, okay? Because I don't think you guys are hearing me on this, okay? I feel like there are a number of facets to this, but I think a lot of it has to do with we have some guys that are overexposed in those positions of tackling, and that will change. Devin Studd still had 67 plays in him when he missed that play that was a simple play on the sideline. He's a true freshman, and fatigue was part of that. Fatigue was part of it. We got to do a better job there. So, and I'm not laying it all on fatigue, but we have to be smarter. We got other players that can be in the game at that time. We've got to be smarter. Tavon Coney was at play 56 when he missed the tackle on the back. So we got to be smarter. And Drew Tranquil had a great game. He had 39 plays. He had one of his best games. Yeah, he missed one tackle, but he's a safety, but he had a great game. And we've got to manage our players better. That's on us. That's on me. That's on our coaches. We got to manage our players better and do a better job there. Yeah, we got to continue to coach tackling, but we got to manage our players better. We got some young guys out there, and we can't overexpose them.
Sure. Thank you.
Coach, right here in the middle. After the game on Saturday, some of your former players had some pretty critical tweets of you. I was curious if you saw those tweets, and if so, what was your reaction to them?
What do you think? That'd be no and no.
Okay. And you touched on it a little bit, but I asked Isaac Rochelle after the game if he was at all worried about losing the locker room as a senior leader. And he said that, he's not worried. He hasn't seen guys start pointing fingers yet, but when a team starts out 1-3 and is inexperienced, that is, a worry for him. Is that a worry for you as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did the players react to when you told them that BVG was let go?
I didn't poll them individually. But as I mentioned before, players are a resilient group. I'm sure there were some that, were more disappointed than others. And nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. I mean, this is real. He's bought a home and he's got a family, and this isn't fairy tale. This isn't reality TV. Somebody lost their job, and he's a friend of mine, and this is real. It's not pretend. So there's real feelings, but I didn't go around the room and poll the group.
And I know you said that on Saturday the defensive scheme will be more your scheme and similar to what you guys have already been running. But how do you describe Coach Hudson's scheme and his general coaching style?
Well, again, I think I've answered the question. He's going to adapt to what I want to run. So his style is going to be Coach Kelly's style. And what he's going to bring is love of Notre Dame, along with a staff that has Notre Dame former coaches on it, and they clearly understand what we're missing and what we're lacking. And I'm very confident you're going to see that come back with him and the defensive staff come Saturday.
Do you feel it's important that you have, former Notre Dame players and Notre Dame grads on your coaching staff?
I don't think it's a necessity, but if they fit, I think it's great. But no, I don't think I go around the country going, I got to have a Notre Dame guy on my staff. But if he's the right fit and he's Notre Dame, well, that's even better.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, tempo has been something that's plagued BVG's defenses in the past. Syracuse obviously runs a very fast scheme. So how do you guys plan to kind of battle that fast-paced offense?
There's complications to that. Obviously, we have to be fundamentally sound. We have to be able to communicate calls effectively that allow us to be in a good position to take away some of their very, very big weapons. We already talked about number 7, but the other receiver they have is really a fine player as well. So they've got some weapons that are going to challenge us. That's it? Only 9 questions? Oh my gosh.
Go ahead, Lakin.
Hey, Brian, over here.
You need college credit for that.
In your opening statement, you said that in the team meetings yesterday that you feel your players clearly understand the direction that you guys need to go. How do you know that they clearly understand the direction that you need to go?
I can't get into that.
Did they show you anything? I mean, was there extra fire or something in the weight room?
Well, I just would say this, and I'm not trying to be evasive in the answering the question, other than it was a very personal and private family meeting, and what went on in here was emotional. And so to divulge what was a very personal and private meeting, other than a meeting had to take place for us to move forward, is really all I could divulge.
Sure. And now, kind of, I know you touched a little bit about their receiver, Amba, but what exactly, makes him so dangerous? I think he's like the #1 receiver in the country right now.
They give him the ball. They flat out throw it to him under all circumstances. They keep throwing it to him and throwing it to him and throwing it to him. So he's targeted all the time. I mean, the ball is going to go to him, and they're going to move him around and get him the football. So it's good coaching. It's smart. He's a really, really good player. And because they play so fast, it's difficult to run multiple coverages, to him. So if you're going to play off, he's pulling it up. If you're going to play up, he's going vertical. And they do a really good job of utilizing him in that fashion. And he's got skill. He can run over the top of you. And he's also got a great catching radius. He's tall and he's athletic. And he can. Last week, they had their best corner. I know I talked to Bob. They had their best corner on him. But he's 5'9". And he just the kid was in great position. He just went up over him 2 or 3 times and took the ball from him.
And now, when looking back at film, have you guys noticed like a common thread between any of the big plays that you've given up on defense?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is there anything in particular that you kind of been like that you need to kind of hone in on specifically?
Yeah, certainly. It starts with the fundamentals of tackling and our guys, being in the right position. So we've got to get them in the right position, and it'll start with this Saturday.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, everybody.